Hey guys, it's Nakib here once again, and today I want to do a short review of this little compact camera by Ricoh, the Ricoh GRIII. I have to be honest with you, the first time when I received the unit, I was excited to play around once again with a compact camera, as I definitely missed my Sony RX100 Mark V, which I sold off a little while ago and I kind of still regret it in a way. And that tiny little camera was definitely a beast of a camera with its maximum aperture of f1.8. So any camera that needs to fill its shoes has got to do something really special in my opinion. Anyway, back to the Ricoh GRIII. Previous to this camera, I have never played around at all with any of Ricoh's GR series, and I was definitely not familiar with the whole ecosystem of Ricoh at all, except for the fact that I used to see their ads appearing in many of my old comic books as a kid. The brand, to me at least, has always been associated with fun cameras that weren't specifically targeted to the professionals in mind, but rather the casual shooter who wants a fun camera to shoot with. I mean, the brand to me always rings a Ringo in my mind for some reason. Okay, so let's go through the specs of this camera. This camera weighs 257 grams, which is really light, and you definitely can keep it in your pocket provided you don't wear super tight jeans. The GRIII comes with a 28mm equivalent lens that has a constant aperture of f2.8 and it can be closed down all the way to f16. It has a 3-inch 1.03 million dots LCD screen that is fixed and can't be articulated, and it doesn't have an EVF. The Ricoh comes with an APS-C size CMOS sensor which is capable of shooting 24 megapixels photos both in RAW or JPEG formats depending on what format you decide to shoot in. It comes with image stabilization, which is rated to stabilize up to 4 stops of vibration, which isn't too bad considering its size. In terms of autofocus, the camera boasts contrast detect and face detect autofocusing, and in terms of video, it is able to record videos but only up to 1080p up to a maximum frame rate of 60 frames a second in MPEG-4 or H.264. Okay, so that's the specs out of the way. Now, how did the camera feel in my hand? Well, in general, the camera definitely feels well built, and despite its overall plastic exterior, it didn't have that really cheap tacky feel, which is good and nice to know. Operating the camera too was fairly easy and intuitive. Changing to different modes of the camera is done through the rotating dial, which can select up to 7 different shooting modes, 3 of which are programmable. At the back where the LCD screen is, there is a scroll wheel which controls the menu system and other stuff like ISO, white balance, etc. However, perhaps due to my fat fingers or it's just overly sensitive, there were times I just felt it got in the way while I was shooting, and sometimes it was changing certain settings counterintuitively. For instance, I was trying to change the ISO settings with a scroll wheel, but it randomly kind of went up and down the ISO range despite the fact that I was only scrolling in one direction. So I don't know whether it's just me or it's the quirks of this camera. Do let me know in the comments if I'm doing something wrong here. It was just bizarre to me. Another thing that I found bizarre too about this camera was the fact that it offers manual focusing. However, it's not like any conventional manual focusing I have ever used before, as there's no true manual override to control your focusing on the lens itself. Instead, you need to switch the manual focusing settings from the camera first, and once that's engaged, manual focusing is achieved by tapping on the specific points you want to focus onto and pressing the shutter halfway to focus on the spot you just selected. Because of that, I did find that there were many times I was struggling to grab focus on certain things to focus on, especially if the subject wasn't easily distinguishable. I really wish I had a proper manual override kind of a focus, as in my opinion this kind of focusing just doesn't cut it. But overall, I think the experience wasn't absolutely terrible, to be fair. It's just that these little quirks did hamper me down a little. Oh yeah, in terms of battery life, I'd say it can get you by for a casual day's shoot of turning off and on the camera, but I would at least buy one extra battery just to feel more comfortable. By the way, speaking of battery, one of the things that also surprised me about this camera is the fact that the camera battery can be slotted in wrongly, as there are no grooves or anything that will prevent you from slotting the camera the wrong way. So just in case the camera doesn't switch on, it could most probably be that you put the battery in wrongly. So do check that out. And here are just some sample shots I managed to snap just for you guys to get an idea of just what kind of shots I was able to achieve with this camera. If there was one thing I definitely like about this camera is the fact that it has an f2.8 aperture, because if you get really close to your subjects, the background separation is really nice. Also, I really like the stabilization this camera offers, because it made shooting things with slow shutter speeds way easier. Okay, so what's my conclusion? Who do I think this camera is really meant for? Well, to be honest with you, in this time and age where everyone with a mobile phone is a bit of a photographer, and with compact cameras like the likes of Sony RX100s and ZV-1s, etc., I think it is definitely a tougher market to crack these days. But of course, I do realize those compact cameras are not in the same league and price range as the GR3. However, I do feel that this camera does have quite an appeal to me in terms of price and general fun factor. It was nice, once again, to just bring a dedicated compact camera in my pocket, and because of its size and price, I was less worried to be a little more experimental with it. So to me, this camera is definitely for those who are not looking to break the bank with a compact camera, and for those who do want added features that just doesn't come with mobile phones. Also for those who do still want to get those shots that have real bokeh instead of those augmented ones. However, if you do want this camera for its video features, definitely steer away from this, as I felt the video quality was really not there at all, especially with its AF pulsing during some videos I took. It just wasn't on at all. But if you're in it just to get a good fun light compact camera that can do some nice street shoots and casual shooting and has more features than your typical mobile phone has, then this camera is definitely worth checking out. Okay, that's it for my review today. If you did find this review useful, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Also, links to all the gear I use to make these videos are in the description down below. Also, if you do want to make a small contribution to help support this channel, I have left my PayPal link in the description down below, and also I've left links to my Lightroom presets down below. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next video.